No, not a chance. This would have been a momentum stop, right? I probably, once we started breaking through kind of that recent swing low, it was probably one of those things where that's all I was doing was just scalping the kind of the couple little stop runs into that area, and it was a reversion. There was an order flow thing there as well, acting kind of like a magnet, and it was just a little scalp. Then we put in kind of a flaggy. So here, like sellers are in control, and then the momentum dries up, right? What is that? That's an attempt of buyers to kind of, it's their turn to push higher. And they're not doing a good job here. Order flow divergence, not good. Nobody buying this thing. I wait for something of a turn, right, off this high. And I don't like it comes all the way back up to that. All right, I'm not going to stop out above the swing. I'm going to stop out right there. And it drops again. I may have even had another scratch in there. It's hard to tell from this. And then we get a nice little wick, a nice shift. I take it again. I know I'm vulnerable here. I'm compromised in a sense. I'm compromised from a almost a rhythm perspective, at least short term. I'm okay with this. Um, it's trading inside now, this compromised zone. So, anyways, get the reentry, saw something I liked, scale into the low edge of that, and then a flatten here. Probably not a great exit there. But maybe I was pretty concerned about that area for a contextual reason or whatnot. Here's another. I wanted to show medium term rhythm, right? Short term rhythm would start from here, right? It would be this and this turn. So, that would be the spot. In this case, I didn't feel comfortable with that. So I was doing more of a medium term rhythm type of entry. I would have, very likely not placed the stop all the way up here, although I ended up kind of stopping out close to there or scratching. So I gave this trade a little more room than would be normal. And then we get this nice little thing here with a nice little pattern with a little up thrust, little tweezer top up thrust there with kind of a move. Now we are kind of vulnerable. I can't tell. I think this may have one ticked that high. So absolutely gorgeous. Took some profits. Reversed to long. Reverse to long. Wow. It's a stop run. I remember this trade. Real big pickup in the tape, and I just scalped just that right there. That's all I did, right? Little breakout style entry with, you think the stop was at the swing low? No, it wasn't. Probably would have been about right there underneath where we kind of broke. I would have given it just a little bit of room to kind of do something. Um, Kind of another almost medium term break here versus the real aggressive one here. Just scalped it into this retest of this kind of breakout level essentially. And then I tried to get into the longs, and it was a real struggle. Try it. That's an add to it, I believe, to just get the sizing right. I noticed something. Scratch out, quick reentry. Come out. Um, Nice little small stop run. And then here, not a good looking low, right? But it lifts from there really quickly. I'm looking to still be in this long for contextual reasons. Um, really don't like the severity of that quick bar against me. But then it's quick right back in the other way. So I'm back in at one or two more quick scratches and whatnot. I mean, this is I lost a little bit of money during this sequence. And then finally, again, you see the little almost flaggy behavior. We get in on the break of it, and we get the trade. It's very rare that someone could look at a chart with my fills and not see these principles that I'm teaching you in this scalping course being applied. I make mistakes like anyone else from time to time. Um, but I certainly don't make the number of mistakes and the severity of mistakes that I used to, as all traders should progress. Little turning point here. This was a day where nothing worked. Well, I guess until this, there's an open position right here. I tried it, starts to work and kind of rips against me. I don't love the look of this stop. I honestly would like to have come out of that earlier, I believe, rather than stopping below that area. But then it sets up again. We get some nice clean momentum and the shift. So we're back in. Oh, what a grind. Not a good move. Not even really taking out this high, I don't believe. And then it starts to shift. We're not going to lose any money on that. I'm not going to take some stop below that region. We're going to scratch out of that. Nice clean momentum with the shift. Try it. No, coming in low. Okay, maybe just a little spring pattern. Let's hop back in. Would have really like you need to take profits here, Merritt. What are you doing? And I have a couple mistakes on that, but that's not the point of these here. This is maybe a little medium term, right? Rather than the immediate short term shift. Didn't work. Didn't take the sucker stop. Got out quicker than the low. And then one more. Nice momentum that actually, you can tell by that trend line I just drew, it accelerated. Probably a late rotation capitulation there, if I recall. I believe it was. Look at the risk reward on this puppy. Huge. Now, again, this was a day where I wasn't taking quick profits. We're going to talk about that when I'm really scalping, purely scalping. I'm taking some profits here. I'm probably taking some profits there, right? Monster trade here. Getting in from a turn with look at the how much this goes and how quickly the speed of tape. We can't see it obviously, but in hindsight, and I remember, was really muddy. Little wick. It's hard to see, but there's a wick through that little micro stop run. Big turn, big shift, go. It even pulled back, and I added more to it. Add here on this again. Look at the pattern, right? Nice little stop run here. Didn't get that one, but it definitely got this kind of cluster of those two. Look at the timing, guys. It's just textbook, just perfect over and over and over. And the scratching and the re-entering, which there wasn't here. But this is an example I wanted to show where there's some adding, right? You can take profits and then maybe add back. Take profits, add back, take profits, and then maybe come out of the full position from the entry, right? It's just another way of doing things depending on how you want to do it. I do not recommend that beginners do much adding, if any at all. It gets messy. Keep it simple. And we're going to talk about, taking profits. We haven't gotten there yet, but adding in particular is something that I do not recommend for most. Here's a day where I really could have used this scalping course to teach me how to take some profits. But this was that example where I had all that huge favorable excursion on the session and no P&L to take home, I guess, outside of this last trade here. But just look at the timing. Look at what's going on here. A big shift from the high. Little pullback, maybe what can't happen here, and they start to drop it, so I'm short. Take a quick loss. Reshort on the nice momentum shift up, and there's the turn, so I'm short. Got to take profits. I don't. Look at the timing. Wow. Now, it's a little mushy, but I saw something changed. Speed of tape, energy, order flow in the delta, something changed there, and it was correct. Didn't pay myself again. Now, this is a little bit more of seeing something during almost a flaggy move to get involved. beautiful. It cracks kind of before that, but it's more medium term, right? Versus this would be the shorter term entry higher. Don't like what I see here. Scratch. Reverse. I don't like what I see here so much. Maybe there was bullish context. I reversed along. Hey, great job not taking any profits. So let's go scratch it, break even. That's not the point of this lesson here today. Look at the timing. Beautiful. All right. It's going. This is a compromised rhythm timing here, but maybe there was nobody selling this thing on the tape. So we made a little compromise. The energy's high. Look at how this market's opening up relative to kind of how it was trading. So you can get away with more. Try this, stop, re-enter, scratch. Look at how fast this move happened, right? That was a very severe, fast move. I'm standing aside. I'm not taking the sucker stop below there. I'm waiting for it to clear out, just like I talked to you guys about earlier. I'm getting in after the turn, and finally we catch. Finally, we take some profits. I'll put it that way. So that's taking this chart, and I showed you guys this earlier with the MAE, MFE example. So wrapping up entries, timing, scratching, re-entries. One thing I think is important to say is that, number one, I'm applying the exact same things that I'm teaching you for my scalping. Number two, at every point for every single entry from all these examples of my work and whatnot, and for anything I'll do today or tomorrow or next week when you're watching, I am entirely uncertain about what's going to happen next. You look at these entries and you a lot of times people think, oh, he's got it figured out, he's so good, blah, blah, blah. They have this perception of a confidence of a knowing what's going to happen next, and just how it's easy, and it's none of that. It never feels easy. It's never something where I know what's happening. I just know the principles that I've taught you here in this course, and I'm looking to apply those over and over and over and get that assessment to get that little incremental layered edge, and then do my best in terms of execution to apply those things and see them at the hard right edge. Let's talk about taking profits. Believe it or not, you know how I've talked about how everything's so important that we've been talking about recently. I don't think that taking profits is all that important for the way we're talking about this scalping. Now, you go back to this chart and you say, Merritt, you were complaining and moaning and upset with not taking profits. Well, yes, I say the most important thing to keep in mind is to take profits. So we've got to take profits. How you go about doing that, I'm probably shocking some of you today with some of the things I'm saying about what's most important and what's not. Maybe some of you are having light bulb moments and epiphanies. I certainly hope so. And I hope I didn't sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, because I said that the exits and the trade management and whatnot, the scratching and the re-entering, those are the most important pieces. And now I'm sitting here saying, well, taking profits is not that important. It's not all that important relative to scratching and re-entering. Taking profits on trades that are just working is absolutely positively dwarfed by those things in terms of the total impact of your overall performance at the end of the month. The most important things to keep in mind for taking profits are, number one, to take profits. And number two, don't allow fear to drive any profit taking. So, how do we do it? Couple categories. Note 100% of it is market generated information. You remember one of the slides, I think on day one or whatnot, I said, look, some people try to impose their system for the decision making, as opposed to how I like to do this with scalping, which is let the market tell us when and where we need to make a decision or take an action. So taking profits, how about this? How about when you get a nice rhythm? Let's say you're in from here. How about when you get a nice, decent rhythm? You just take some profits. It doesn't need to be rocket science. Take some profits. How about you take some profits on a favorable burst of momentum? It's a little shorter term than rhythm in general. So if we were to look at this on a more granular basis, let's say that there's bars coming down and then we get long, nice little wick, we get long. Let's say there's just a nice little burst of momentum before we kind of settle in, and actually get what we would then say there's the rhythm move, right? Take some profits when you see the first little sign of stall after a nice momentum push. Take some profits. How about the shift against it, right? I mentioned you can do it on pure strength as it goes with the momentum. You can wait for the momentum to start to stall or turn and take it there. You saw a lot of examples of that in my my trading examples. How about order flow? How's that underlying health? How about we're in a rhythm move here and the order flow is all of a sudden, instead of this higher high, right? The delta is just awful, right? How about you take some profits? Because you've got a nice excursion and the underlying health is not so good. How about you've got some profit? You've got a rhythm move here. And how about a different order flow scenario? How about it's into delta neutral from below? Let's scale respecting that delta neutralization from below. It's a major opposing signal or kind of a magnet. How about this is into the +2 standard deviation on DVA, or this was an extreme fade from down here and now we're getting to the +1, the upper extreme. How about you take some profits based on that, what did we call it? Value traversal, value area traversal, right? Boom, of DVA. Bring in your context. Bring in the context. You got a good contextual level spot that gets reached, take some profits. Regardless, it's all 100% market generated information. We're not taking some like R multiples or some kind of statistical thing. We're looking at the movement as it occurs within different frameworks that we use for that, and we're making decisions, and we don't have to overcomplicate it. So I keep talking about taking profits, and I'm sure some of you were thinking, Merritt, I don't have that many profits to take, right? Okay, yeah, let's talk about it. Like, let's say we're trading a 2-lot, right? And firstly, I like getting all in and scaling out. I like that. I could talk to you for an hour about why I like that. Ultimately, I see it as kind of combining two systems into one. And so you, what is the word? Diversify your returns. If you have one system that takes real quick profits on a burst in your favor, and you have another system that waits for something that's harder to reach, those are kind of two systems. They might share the same entry, but they're two systems. And those two systems will outperform and underperform at different times. So you smooth out your equity curve. That's why I like scaling. I feel like it smooths out my results. how to handle multiple contracts. How much do we scale out for what variables and what part of this market generated information? Firstly, doesn't matter. If you're doing a great job at reading what you need to read, it doesn't matter. Secondly, you could start out much more rules based and systematic while you build skills, while you kind of earn the right to be real flowy and discretionary like I am. Let's say we're trading 2 lots. It could be 10 lots, but I'm going to say we're going to split your size into 2 parts. Obviously, a 2 lot can only split into 2 parts. The first part, half of your position for whatever size you're trading, let's just say, is scaled out on a decent, favorable momentum burst. Please don't try to overthink that, guys. Unless it's a real large bar, it's probably not one single bar, but it's a decent burst of momentum. Have a choice. Take it off as if it's boom, boom, boom. If you're long and it's bursting in your favor for a handful of couple bars, just sell one. Okay? If you want to wait for it to feel like it's pausing or stalling or starting to just turn just the same way that you timed your entry, do that. Great. Love it. Wonderful. The second part, the full remaining position, can be exited on, it looks like I just quit typing on the slide here. It could be exited on any of those bigger picture things that you want to kind of attach it to, right? So to go back to that, full rhythm moves, wait for a problem in underlying order flow, identify a late rotation capitulation as you're holding a position. Oh, that's a great spot to come out. Wait until you reach that other side of DVA. Wait until you reach a contextual level. If you want, it could all be really, really quick, really, really direct momentum. On both parts, that is. So for the first part, it could be boom, 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 like decent momentum into the favor. And then you could have an idea of kind of when things get late from a rhythm perspective, and when you start to see either a problem in order flow or a turn in price and or a turn in order flow on a bar to bar basis, right? A very short term basis, you could come out of that second part. Like I started off in day one, niche, you, and how trade management would become one of the largest components of you differentiating how you like to do this. You're going to see all next week how I do it. And it is going to follow all this stuff that I'm teaching you. And I am going to trade small, like you guys do. Well, I don't know how everyone on this call how they trade, but like people starting out do. If you trade more than 2 lots, you can simply, if you want to, if you start trading 10 lots, you can still treat it 5 and 5. There's nothing wrong with that. The way I treat more lots is I give myself a little more active scaling. You saw it with a lot of the examples I showed you earlier. Oh, look, I've already taken initial scales, and then I set through a pullback or something in some way, and then I get a nice second rhythm move. Great. Let's take some off, right? Either on strength or, again, waiting for a shift. Either way, doesn't matter. Protecting scales when order flow weakens, protective scales. So sometimes something really, really good happens and we take a scale. Sometimes something not so good happens and we take a scale. Big shift, order flow divergence, a big passive participant that's stepping in front of the direction you're trying to get price to go in your favor. Take a scale, take a protective scale on a bad sign. Contextual targets, as we mentioned, you get multiple contextual targets. The more lots you're trading, the more of those you can set if you want. And then the next DVA area, right? Maybe you took let's throw in a handful of them. Maybe it was imbalanced down and you got long from this real nice, it's the three-peat trade that we were going through. Well, it makes sense to potentially take a scale from a DVA perspective, okay? You could scale here. You could scale VWAP itself if you like that one. You could scale the upper extreme. You could scale the +2 if we end up doing something like this. There's multiple places with DVA based on these major levels, right? The real extremes, development value low, VWAP, development value high, real extreme. There's also, if you don't like scaling out and don't like my philosophy on diversification of systems, and you're going for pure expectancy maximization, and you don't care about drawdowns and essentially trading for a living and adding that smoothness to your results, go all in, all out, baby. Go for bigger risk reward, and you're just simply going to reduce your win percent, which is going to oftentimes make drawdowns last for more time because the win percent is that much lower. Less winning days, like those kind of things. But you can really hit some big trades and do really well with that. So there's nothing wrong with all in, all out. I prefer scaling out. I prefer trying to add consistency to my consistency. That's kind of how I see it. A lot to digest from today's session, a lot to digest from the past handful of days. Rewatch, take notes, study each component, go look at it with charts, practice, fail, review that work, improve, develop, and ultimately make it your own in some ways. So that's it for today. I think today was a big deal. Hopefully it was some good stuff for some of you. That's the hope. This is a very good way to scalp and do very well with scalping. And again, stay a part of the community, share, be accountable, put yourself out there. Here's what I tried to do. Here's what I learned from it. Let's see some examples in the community around studying an individual component, little screenshot of here's where I saw this or that, and relative to what we talked about. Do a lot of that. You're gonna get better. If a human focuses on something and puts in the work, we can't help but get better.